Okay, to talk more about the vaccine protest and the reasons behind all this, we bring in Eric Miller. He is the president of Rideau Potomac Strategy Group. He is also a global fellow with the Canada Institute at the Wilson Center. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. I hope you had a chance to hear Dan's story, because when you think of Canada, you don't think of demonstrations, frustration, and anger that's boiling over. Bring us up to date on how this actually started a dozen days ago by truckers who are frustrated with a mandate to be vaccinated against the virus.
Well, I think it's fair to say that everybody across the Western world and beyond is frustrated with the COVID-19 pandemic and the varying shifts in demands that have arisen as a result. And so a small group of truckers set out from the East Coast and the West Coast to go to Ottawa. They were specifically responding to a proposal or a mandate, indeed, by the Government of Canada to require that truckers moving goods across border between the U.S. and Canada be vaccinated. And this was the genesis of the protest. Now, it's important to note that 90% of truckers are vaccinated in Canada, and many truckers across the country are out moving goods. So one has to be careful with saying that these represent the majority, but in this case, a critical mass of people have chosen to blockade and occupy downtown Ottawa.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to give the impression that it is the majority, especially after hearing what's coming out of New Zealand, but what's going on there has struck a nerve with many, spreading to other nations where, as you said, people are simply fed up with all the restrictions, fed up with COVID, ready to move on right now. But it is moving to Australia, New Zealand, and someone more skeptical, more cynical might say this looks like it's something that could have been orchestrated by the right wing.
Well, certainly there are a lot of questions about who organized this, and there are a lot of analysts in Canada who have identified the people behind this as having had a track record. There was a major protest about a year and a half ago that traded in conspiracy theories around oil and gas, and it was the so-called I Love Oil and Gas March. There were similar phenomenon that you saw even in France with the Yellow Vest movement. What happens is there's a frustration that gets expressed by people, and those that tend to be more mobilized on the far right tend to grab onto this and turn it into their own protest. And so this is a phenomenon that you've seen in many different countries, and it's spreading.
Yeah, sort of seizing on this opportunity. What is it doing to the Canadian economy right now?
Well, the important piece right now is that the Ambassador Bridge, which carries 27% of Canada-U.S. trade, is also shut down. Similarly, they have moved to try to shut down the Blue Water Bridge at Port Huron. As I said, 27% of bilateral trade, that's about $300 million a day in goods moving back and forth across the border. If you're an auto manufacturer, you run a just-in-time supply chain. That means you've got basically anywhere between 24 to 72 hours of inventory. And so you're going to see auto plants shut down, food processing plants shut down, and this is going to lead to layoffs and certainly more frustration and confrontation between those who are laid off and those who are occupying the bridges.
A couple of things here. One, sadly, that video is silent we're looking at, but from everything I've read and heard, there's so much horn honking going on that people who live there are equating it to psychological warfare. What is this doing to Prime Minister Trudeau? Is it giving his detractors a whole lot of fuel to run with?
Well, certainly the Prime Minister was not particularly visible during the first week of the protest. Now, he did have the Omicron variant, which had him out of action, but he and his ministers were saying very little. And the population in Ottawa felt rather abandoned, and there was some bickering between the city and the federal government about who was in charge. And so you already saw the leader of the opposition Conservatives that was toppled as a result of tensions around the trucker protest. Certainly for Prime Minister Trudeau, the sense that's emerged in the last few days is that he needs to find a way to get a handle on this and lead, and he has been compared not favorably to the resolve of his father during the October crisis of 1970.
Indeed. If this continues to run on and drags to other nations, Eric Miller, I'm sure we will reach out and chat with you again. Thank you, the Global Fellow with the Canada Institute at the Wilson Center, Eric Miller.